Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Off the Bike. In today's episode, I'm excited to introduce you to Erin Oberg, a writer at our Charleston studio. Through today's conversation, you'll see how her journey at Synergy led to discovering who she is on and off the bike. As she faced and went through some trials and tribulations through medical school, she discovered more and more about who she was, what became the most important in her life, and how she got to where she is today. She's in Charleston, she's loving life, she's practicing medicine, she's got a beautiful dog. This is her story. Buckle up, it's time for another episode of Off the Bike. Hi friends, welcome back to another podcast episode of Off the Bike. I've got my friend Erin here from our Charleston studio. Hi friend, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm good. I am so excited for everyone who's listening in to hear your story, learn a little bit more about you, how you found Synergy, the things you've gone through kind of since finding Synergy and around that time, and where you're at today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That sounds great. For sure.
Let's jump in. All right. Best place to start at the very beginning, which is, do you remember your first ride at the studio?
I do. I love working out. I've grown up doing it, always was an athlete. And so when I moved to a new area, one of the things that I wanted to investigate was different workout studios and things like that. So I found Energy on Google. And then I went to my first class, and I think it was Courtney was the instructor, which I know that she no longer teaches, but it was a little bit of a torture session. So I didn't go back as quickly as I thought I would, but it was a lot of fun. And obviously I enjoyed it because I'm still going today.
Yeah. So tell me about that first class. You say torture session, which is, I hear, maybe not in those exact terms, but I hear that about first class. Like, what was that experience like?
So I'm a type A, which we'll dive into a little bit later. So it's really hard for me to be okay with not being perfect. And so when riding on the bike and not being able to match the beats or, match the choreography, that was kind of hard, but then you're building up that resistance too. And that can definitely be challenging. But then I was also putting myself in a new environment and trying a new workout. So as a collection, it was a difficult class.
Yeah. Just like all together, there was just a lot of stuff happening, it sounds like.
Yes.
Do you remember what time period that was when you took your first class?
That was, oh gosh. So I moved down here in June of 2021. So this would have been probably August of 2021, somewhere around there.
Okay. And where did you move from to get to Charleston?
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Pittsburgh, PA. And as we'll talk about later, I am now a doctor. And so through medical school and residency, I've kind of moved all over the place. So I actually moved to Charleston from Toledo, Ohio.
Okay. And that was because you were in school in Toledo, Ohio?
That's where I was doing my clinical work, was up in Toledo, Ohio. And then I matched into residency down here.
Gotcha. So doctor now, but there was a lot of journey happening between then and now to get to where we're at, right?
Correct. Yes.
So I want to dive into all of that today as much as you want to talk about. Can you take me back to life during residency? And feel free to lay the scene for anybody who may not know the medical field.
Absolutely. So briefly, you go through medical school and that's 4 years. And when you graduate, as long as you passed your boards, you get that medical degree. So, you graduate one day as a doctor and then you go into residency as day one and you're a practicing physician. And so it's interesting because you hear all about the impersonation and the mental game that you go through as one day you're sitting in the classroom and then the next day you're actually practicing. So it's impersonation syndrome. There we go. So a lot of it is hard.
That's a crazy twist. Keep going. I just think it's so interesting how you kind of just said it perfectly. One day you're this and the next day you're that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thankfully during intern year, which is your first year of residency, you have a lot of support. You have senior residents that are working with you, faculty members. But in my situation, I deemed my the COVID cohort, because we graduated from medical school in 2021, and we were the first class that was applying to residencies in the midst of COVID. And so that was brand new for everyone who was applying to residencies. And so when it came to getting my spot, I actually got into my backup specialty, not the specialty that I had put my heart towards for many, many years, but I was very grateful to have a spot. So going into residency, I was kind of playing around with the whole identity crisis of who I'm going to be in this brand new specialty. And then the idea of, graduating medical school. And now I'm actually a practicing physician in a hospital, which is very wild. So you have that mental game that goes on to it. And then I remember there was multiple days where you're exhausted. You can't keep up with your chores at home, the mental gymnastics you're playing. And actually, there was one day that my mom called me, and my home is about 4.5 hours north of here. And she said, "Have you had dinner yet?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "Okay, well, I'm about an hour away and here I have pizza." So like she could sense that I was having just a really rough time. And she brought me pizza and just like stopped by overnight. But yes, residency is difficult because you're trying to figure out who you are as a doctor and as an adult. But then you're also responsible for taking care of sick people. So
Yeah,
there's a
that
lot that
is.
goes into it. Yeah.
What do you think was the most difficult part of that experience?
So going back to the whole type A personality, control freak kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I think one of the most difficult parts just in that beginning was trying to be okay with not knowing everything and trying to learn as much as you can as quickly as you can to keep up with the pace. So, specifically during our intern year, I was in a general medicine residency. And so I did a lot of rotations with a lot of different specialties. And so trying to keep up with all of that work and that understanding and working with a lot of different colleagues, that could be difficult. And so, we don't talk a lot about mental health in medicine, unfortunately. And unfortunately, you have the ebbs and flows and everything else like that. And sometimes you forget to take care of yourself because you're taking care of other people and also trying to prove your worth and your identity. And that can lead you into a lot of different situations.
Yeah. So, is that partly, I know that Synergy has come in your life in a couple different times and you're back writing now because you're back in Charleston. But is that one of the things that you found at Synergy was the mental side? Talk to me a little bit more about, as deep as you want to go at least, about that mental process throughout school, throughout residency, and really where Synergy kind of came and played into all of that.
Sure, absolutely. So, towards the end of my intern year, I started to take on some more responsibility just because I wanted to prove to my residency and then to my faculty that I was a right choice for a leadership position. And so I took on the other responsibilities. And so it got to a point that I was losing who I was as a person so that I could prove myself and my self worth to other people. And so at that point in time, obviously, I was carrying the workload of residency as a whole, but then all the extra work as well. It wasn't too awful because I got to work with a lot of different people throughout the hospital. I made a name for myself and everything else like that. But then come about August or September of my second year, I got to a point that there were moments where I would kept snoozing my alarm till the absolute last point because I just didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. My laundry was backed up, my dishes were backed up, and I wasn't myself. And that was very, very hard to think about and to feel. And then unfortunately, it just kind of continued to grow, but I was able to put it on a back burner because I had a lot of responsibility that I had to deal with. And not to mention, I'm a person that like goes along, makes sure everyone else is okay, puts the smile on my face because that's what I have to do. And then come November, there was the decision about that leadership spot, and my name was on the ballot, but unfortunately, the spot went to other people who were not working as hard, in my opinion, and who were not going the extra mile, but they ended up getting the spot. And at that point in time, it was devastating. And that was a Friday night. We got an email on a Friday night, which, as you all know, that's not the way to handle the
No,
situation.
no.
And so come Monday, I was able to have a meeting with my faculty advisor about the whole situation. And unfortunately, this person did not necessarily help. And then there was a surprise intervention type meeting that all the faculty members hosted. And they took me into a room, and there was all of our faculty members, and there were people that were just in such disbelief, even though they were the ones that were telling me to, or voluntolding me to do things. And there was another faculty member that was like, "But Erin, you're doing such a fantastic job. You should just keep doing it." There was another faculty member that was telling me, "You're just having really big emotions right now." And so there was all of these things that were going on, and these people were supposed to be supporting me and helping me in all aspects of residency, and I wasn't getting it. That meeting lasted about 90. Finally, I was able to get out of that, and there was one faculty member who had a similar episode of burnout during her residency, and so her and I were able to talk, like, a little bit deeper about things. But after I got out of work that day, I was like, "I don't like the person I am. I don't like what I'm going through right now, so how can I change this?" Because obviously, the people that I thought were supposed to help me were not going to help me.
Yeah.
And
So
so
real fast
go for it.
to just interject. I mean, it sounds like this experience was a breaking point for you,
Mhm,
but also a learning point, which I know we're going to get to here. That's the fun part of the conversation. Like, how do you pull yourself up? Maybe that's what you're getting ready to say, but like, how do you pull yourself up from something like this that you may think in that moment is the worst thing that could possibly happen? Maybe I'm putting words out right now, but
mhm.
how do you bring yourself up from that?
Yeah, so, it was hard. I still had responsibilities for residency, and for those people that may be listening that are familiar with this, it's not like you just get to leave residency and go about your day. The majority of the time, you have to, complete your residency and go through it, and so I kept going to work. I mean, granted, I was there at the last minute, and I would leave as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, I did push a lot of people away because in my mind, they were just adding to the problem, and still feel really bad about that because there were some really, really good people that wanted to try to help me, but I just, like, was not getting that from them. And my family, I have a fantastic family, but I'm the first doctor in my family, and so I didn't even feel comfortable reaching out to my family to explain this to them. And so at that point in time, I was like, "Okay, what in Charleston do I love that's a priority that can help me?" And so at that point in time, I realized one thing that I could do is look into therapy because obviously therapy is super duper important. So I was able to pay out of pocket for some therapy. I have some besties that are in the medical field that I was able to like reach out to. And then I also have a great Bible study here in church and everything else like that. So that helped. But most importantly is that movement is medicine, and Zenergy had always been very important in my life. And I think at that point in time, I realized that because of that environment, the incredible people there, the words that they would say that like I could not even say to myself were cracking through everything. And so I realized that Zenergy needs to be a priority. And so I made it a priority and I kept going back. And there were some days where I didn't feel like it, but I had already paid for the class. And so I was like, I'm going to go. And I remember one class, Paige played Sam Smith, Love Yourself, I think.
Mhm, mhm.
I cried. I bawled my eyes out
Listen,
because
anything Sam Smith is gonna get you emotionally, any of his stuff.
yes, and because I identified with that. And the people at Charleston, Kristen, Carly, Paige, Maddie, Ben when he was there, like all of those people, whether they realized it or not, the days that they were telling me that I was worthy, I was loved, I was enough, I needed to hear that. And I couldn't say it for myself. But they could tell me, and it just kept saturating and going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then finally, one day, I felt like I was whole again. And I mean, granted, it took a year, but I it was
And so
them, it was a huge thing.
over that year and you going back to the studio and you being involved in all of these different, whether it was church or therapy, it sounds like you really found these pockets of community that really
Mhm.
supported you. So over that year, of growth and transition, and obviously you still had all your responsibilities because that's not going to stop. Life doesn't stop moving around us. How did you, over that course of the year, did you just say, you know what, I'm going to do this for me, I'm going to focus, and you just put your head down and did it? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
No, I mean, it got to a point that I lost myself, so I need to find myself again. And the only way to do that is to put myself first because there's the old adage that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. So even if my
Can't pour from an
schedule
empty cup.
even if my schedule was chaotic, I was finding that space to make sure I went to the studio because that made a difference to me, that made a huge impact in my life, and I needed that. I needed something to hold on to, and they were giving me that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's props to you for that's not easy. I think mental health is something that is it's not talked about enough.
Mm-mm.
And it's a really scary thing. And it really takes a lot personally to pull yourself out of those deep moments of, I mean, there are moments that we feel like we're never going to get out of, you
Mhm.
know, if every, I know a lot of people that have gone through this more than some think, you know, I mean, it's such a common thing. So when you have supportive communities around you that say, you know what, you've got this, it does make life a little bit easier. You know, it does move you. I mean, that kind of goes really well with what I wanted to kind of move into next, which was like, when did writing become just an escape from that day to day and more of a way of life for you?
If you look into my statistics on my app, Kristen is by far my favorite. She's always been so authentic. And I think that made a difference because I didn't know who I was. And so to have her be who she is, just so honestly and pure, fun. And then she was also super challenging too. And so with her music and what she was saying and the challenges that were associated with it, I think as a whole just realized like, okay, if I can make that, she wants 10 knobs on that bike and I can make it up that hill in this crazy song, then maybe I can make it, 5 extra minutes at work tomorrow. Or, just
So it sounds like you started taking the experiences in class and putting them into real life situations and your day to day. I mean, is that correct?
yeah,
So,
I would say that's a good way to put it.
I mean, so it's almost like you found yourself again on the bike and in these communities, but then how did you start reclaiming yourself, finding yourself? And now you got to reclaim yourself because you go through these situations and these life experiences and you're down at the bottom of the barrel. You start to climb out, but you're not done when you climb out. Now you got
Mm-mm.
to reclaim. So, how did you reclaim yourself?
Zenergy gave me the confidence and the self-worth to be able to regain what I needed out of life. And so, because they gave me something to stand on to support everything else, then whenever I needed to stand up for myself, I knew that I could. Not to mention at work, I was able to take a couple extra different pathways to support me outside of my residency. And then I also found other people that were in similar situations at work. And so we built a community on top of that too. So you're right. It was not, once I get out of the hole, I'm done. And even to this day, there's a lot of things that I continue to do, but making myself a priority is something that I hold so tightly onto. And I think that that was something that definitely Zenergy has on me and,
Yeah.
made a statement. Yeah.
I love that. So you go through residency, you go through school, and you graduate and then do residency, right? Remind me.
Yeah. So you graduate medical school and then you do residency.
Okay.
And then after residency, I chose to do a fellowship.
Okay.
And so that fellowship actually took me over to Jackson, Tennessee.
Okay.
And I was there for a year. And whenever I was figuring out what I wanted to do after fellowship, I wanted to come back closer to home. And there was a couple different options that just didn't work out. And so I was like, you know what? I made a life for myself in Charleston. And obviously, like I said, I had a great support group in my church and my Bible study and some other people that I have met along the way. But Zenergy was here and I missed it so much. And so I knew that I needed to come back home to them.
I love that. So how long have you been back in Charleston for?
since mid-September, so a little almost 2 months.
Yeah, back home. Listen, Charleston, as you might know, that's where I'm from. There's no place like home. I love Charleston. The people there are so supportive. You know, you're in such a beautiful place, and I know that everyone's happy to have you as well at the studio. I mean, without a doubt. I think that in life presents these moments of time and situations and stories. Like, you know, now looking back at those moments and that journey that you've been on, what do you take from it today, now, in today's time? Like, you made it through that. Like, what are you taking through it?
I mean, what I keep harping on, I have to maintain that I need to make myself a priority.
Yeah.
Whether it's dealing with stuff at home, dealing with stuff at work, looking at my to-do list, I still have to take time for myself, and that has to be.
Yeah. What do you think it means to find yourself and to put yourself first?
Oh my gosh. It meant the world at that point in time, and then it has definitely helped shape me into who I am today, because then now I can firmly state and stand on my own 2 feet that, I am Dr. Oberg or, like, I am Erin Oberg, and this is what, I want to do in my life. Like, I don't know, I have more confidence. I have more self-worth. I, walk into work and I know what I'm gonna do and people are going to respect me for it. I feel like
Yeah.
I carry my head a little bit higher. I hate that I had to go through it. I hate that burnout is a common thing that people experience, specifically in the medical field. But the journey, I feel like, has certainly shaped me into who I am today. Sorry for
Yeah,
that
I mean
stupid
it.
cliche,
No,
but
no, I mean it's your journey presented speed bumps and you got over those speed bumps and look at where you are today, which kind of I wanted to ask you, what does Erin's life look like today? Like, what are you, obviously you're still writing, but and you're back
yeah,
in Charleston, but what does your life look like today? And you're a doctor. So
yeah.
yeah, give it to me.
So, yeah, no, so I am working in a small ER about an hour away from here. I love rural medicine, so that's why I kind of sought out that position. I have a dog. I love him so much.
Oh, what kind of dog? Tell me.
He's a rescue. I adopted
Okay.
him whenever I was over in Tennessee. He's a bully
Okay.
mix. He has already met the crew at Synergy.
Love that. We love all dogs. All dogs
Yes.
are welcome.
Yes. Well, actually, one of the beautiful things that Kristen did for me, whether she realized it or not, is that she let me babysit her dogs. So, like, that was so fantastic because at that point in time, I didn't have any pets,
Yeah.
but I know just the importance of dogs' loves. So that
We're
was
not
really, really
lucky
nice
enough
too.
to have animals. We're not
No.
they're the
Yeah.
best thing.
Yeah. So Heinzie boy, I adopted him whenever I was in Tennessee, and he's the sweetest little one. So I'm very lucky to have that 70-pound ball of love.
Oh, I love that. And, you're still riding, so when you clip into the bike now, is there a difference from than when you were clipping in years ago? Like, what does that look like now when you clip in?
There's more joy. You know, there are a lot of days where, yes, I'm still not hitting that beat by any means, where the choreography is like going over my head, but I can definitely laugh about it a whole lot more and just be happy to be in that space.
Yeah.
And then you just walk into the studio and you see all the people smiling and, say, "Hey, how are you?" And, it's fun and it's enjoyable. And I love it there. I really do. And if you talk to my family and all my friends, they know that I love it there too.
Well, listen, I know I can speak for the whole team by saying we love having you. I told
Thank
Kristen
you.
that we were doing this podcast and she says hello and she's super excited to listen in. I am so fortunate that Synergy brings people like us together. And I'm so fortunate that we can be just a small part of your story and vice versa because it's inspiring. I mean, look at the I'm going to say trials and tribulations. Look at the trials and tribulations that you went through and look at where you are now and suddenly now you're back in Charleston. Like what a full circle moment, I guess I could kind of say.
It's
You
so
know?
weird because at the end of residency, I was still like, nope, I'm never coming back to West Virginia. Like, this was a good part of my story, but that was it. And then when I moved away, I was like really missing a lot of my family, the people that I chose to be a part of my life and be a part of my story. And when things just didn't work out to go back to PA, I was like, I want to be here.
Yeah, it's my dad always told me growing up, I always said, I'm going to move away to New York City. I'm never going to come back. And he said, let me just tell you, every time someone says they're never coming back to West Virginia, they always end up back to West Virginia. And listen, I don't live in Charleston, but I live in Morgantown, and I have moved back to West Virginia 3 times. So there's something about home. There's something about West Virginia and the people here that, who was it? There was that quote, like the sun may not always shine in West Virginia, but the people do. It's something that's like, it's so true. Okay, I got to ask you, you've gone through the whole journey. I want to tie it up by saying, what is one takeaway? And I've kind of asked this throughout the podcast, but what's one takeaway as you continue to get on the bike and as you continue to practice and as you continue to live your life? What's the takeaway that you want to share with people, or the message that you want to give to someone who's listening to this, who may be going through something similar, or maybe in a different field and is just in a tough time in their life, and they don't see the end of the tunnel? Like, what's one takeaway you want to give to them?
When I was in the midst of everything and I was trying to figure out priorities and whatnot, the one thing I kept asking myself is, what brings me joy? What brings you joy? I think is something that needs to be at the forefront. Because yes, you have to go to work. I had to go to residency. You have to do that stuff. But what is going to bring you joy at the end of the day? Because that needs to be something that I keep saying it out there. It needs to be a priority. You need to put that on the top of your list, because that'll make all the difference. Because then if you're going to do that one thing that brings you joy, if it's picking up your favorite coffee, on the weekend, or booking that bike 18 is my absolute favorite bike.
No one can take it. It's your bike.
It is my bike. You have to have those pockets of joy, because then they will balance out all the other things that you have to deal with, that you are forced to deal with. Finding joy, making yourself front and center, and really holding on to those people that mean the world to you. So, like I said, I really couldn't tell my family what I was going through, but they were always there for me no matter what. They were always a phone call, a WhatsApp, or text message away, and I am so grateful for that. I have a best friend who lives out in California, and it's not like we were always able to talk, but she was always a text or Instagram or whatever it may be. And then the chosen family that I made in Charleston, the couple of friends that I had at work that really tried to help me. Granted, I was not the nicest person to them, but they still stood there and tried to help me. They're important. And my Bible study, and then most importantly, the Team Men's Energy, that they're angels here. They're
We love them.
incredible people.
We love them.
Yep.
Listen, I don't know how you could end on any higher of a note on this podcast. I want to say, I speak for the whole Charleston team and myself by saying we're so grateful for you. And I appreciate you sharing your story, and to all the people that are listening. And if you're listening to this and you need a place to go, or you want to clip in, whether you're in Charleston, Morgantown, Naperville, or East Liberty, like, we've got you. You're going to meet people like Erin, who is on bike 18. And, you can't take her bike, but you can sit on 17 or 16.
Yeah.
And we're there to support you. We're there to lift you up. It's been such a pleasure, friend. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate this too.
Of course, of course. Listen, if you see Erin in the Charleston studio, say hi to her. She'll be around. And then until next time, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye,
Absolutely.
friends.
Thank you so much.